Hey guys, Trevor Holt here. Welcome to another episode of the Who Are We podcast. I have a special guest, Arianne. How are you today?
I'm good. I am so glad that I can come back at your podcast and with a book that we mentioned the last time, but now it's here.
That's amazing. And just for those that don't remember, it was about 6 months ago we first spoke to you, and you were you were very excited to talk about dogs and in particular, and how you train the dogs to help people in their
Yes.
own personal life. Do you want to do a bit of a recap about what it is you do and the joy that you bring and how you go about it?
Oh, for sure. I love that. So I am an animal communicator, intuitive coach, and a dog trainer. And over 30 years experience, I figured out that we all the time try to teach the dogs, but what can they teach us? So the last couple of years, I kind of turned the wheel and I started to see how much we can learn from them. And the good part about that part is if we are open and understanding to our dogs, they can learn so much to us that they can help us literally grow into a better person. So this is what I am doing. I am changing this world with the help of one dog at a time.
Yeah, and that's an amazing philosophy, because we all know, I've been following some of your work. You talk about it often, like dog therapy and how different dogs can bring positive emotions and change people's worlds for the better. And there's all sorts of training, like even like sniffer dogs at airports and security dogs, and there's all sorts of different types of dogs that humans use in their everyday lives. So having that philosophy about learning how to communicate and using the dogs to create better versions of ourselves, that's a remarkable philosophy that you use. And you use some of that in your book, did you? Is that what your book is about, is how that goes about, or do you want to explain that a bit?
Yeah, so you can see the title is Be the Change for Your Dog. So instead of judging your dog and being frustrated that they don't do what you want, we are changing it and we're looking to it. So, what is my dog actually trying to tell? Because every behavior your dog does comes as a communication to us. So it's very often that we talk to them, but we ignore the feedback that they give us. So we are opening us up for the feedback. And sometimes, even if they don't speak to us in the same way as we do, they speak with their behavior or sometimes a little bit with their voice, right? And I try to kind of translate their behavior into feedback so that we can understand it and what is your dog actually telling us. So, a big thing in my work is that I think every dog should be a confident dog. So, how does a confident dog looks like? That is the first question that I have for somebody who has a dog. How is your dog looking when it's confident? You have dogs, so can you tell me?
Yeah, so I think a confident dog is relaxed. I think they're not stressed out. I feel for me a little bit different in the rural setting, but for me a confident dog is not worried about strangers coming close to them, or not worried about other dogs, because they feel secure within themselves and have that trust with their owner, especially in the dog show ring. I feel with that trust and comes that relaxed behavior, and that relaxed behavior creates the environment where friction's not so much available, because the dog is so relaxed. So if another dog does come up and goes yap yap yap, or growls or something, then there's no response there, because he is quite at heart, he's quite relaxed and quite in tune with the person showing them. And that's what I feel a confident dog is relaxed and not stressed and able to assimilate in their environment without any aggression, I feel. Yeah, what do you think? How did I go? Did I pass?
I think you're pretty close, but you know what? I can tell you what a confident dog looks like, but every dog is unique. So you need to see and learn to see how your dog looks confident. I can give you all kind of tools where you need to keep an eye on. It can be the ears, it can be eyes, it can be how their tail is, and it can be how relaxed they are, right?
Yeah.
So if we know when a dog is confident, we sure know when they're not confident either, right?
Yeah.
And you said you already make that difference between, like, if they do react, they're not confident, right?
Yeah.
But if I tell you that we cannot train a dog who is not confident or who is not open to receive or anything you want to tell them, that's really important. So if we don't know the difference between a confident dog and a not confident dog, how can we try to educate them then?
Yeah.
So that is really important. So I really break down that we start to open ourselves up to look at the dog's emotions. And you know what? It's very often that a dog who's not confident is often that we are not confident either.
Yeah.
Right? They reflect the emotion that we have. So your power is there when your dog is not confident, that you step up as a leader and say, like, you know what? I got you. You can borrow a little bit of my confidence. We get through this together.
Yeah.
And that's the power as a dog owner, to pick up that leadership role instead of thinking that if we control them and if we sometimes people hit them or really are speaking with loud voices, your dog is not deaf. Your dog is not deaf, but if it is in a state where it cannot hear you, you can stand on your head and it still doesn't hear you.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the things that we need to learn. But beside that, we need to control our own thoughts and emotions, because it's literally what we feel is what our dogs feel too and react on.
It's interesting that you should say that, though, because from the experience that we have showing the dogs, my partner does a lot of the showing, and she always says to me, like, if she's feeling maybe upset or stressed or there's something going on in her personal life or something that's upsetting or something, and she's not maybe stressed out about certain things, and like often with the dogs it might be an illness, or it might be she might be worried because we've got some other animals here, or there might be some underlying things that got nothing to do with the dog she's showing. But when she takes it to the show, the dog sort of, like you say, senses that emotion, and it becomes a different prospect in the ring, because, like you say, they're sort of mirroring, if you will, or parroting that emotion that she's given it. She's actually identified that on several occasions. So it's quite interesting that you should bring that up, you know.
But it definitely is. So if you think back at the shows, because that's your world, so I will take that example back to shows. If people start to compete with other people in a show and starts to be frustrated about other dogs, how do you think that those dogs feel?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So as people, it is our emotions that we cannot control that will reflect into the dogs, and it doesn't help them. They even suffer with it.
Yeah. And the other point that I've seen you raise as well with the dogs, I suppose, and using the dogs to create better outcomes for yourself as a human is even just the going on a walk and staying present with them in the park and that sort of stuff. So there's another element of that leadership role that you're saying, like you're taking leadership, but even the simple things like taking the dog for a walk gets you out of your house and gets you out in the park and in the fresh air as well, and creates better outcomes just with that
Ye-
that exercising.
You're absolutely right. And I always tell people, because we're very like, we want to be perfect and everything, but you know what? Your dog doesn't want you to be perfect. What your dog wants is that you are present. They want you with them in now, not with your thoughts, in all the stress that you have at work or wherever. Or how many people are working their dogs with their phones, right? So that is not being with your dog. What your dog wants is time one-on-one. And that's so important to build that connection. So if we want to become better people, we can learn so many things from the dogs. And I have in the book, I have a whole wheel with 6 lessons that I got from the dogs. Those I will tell them. So one is the practice mindfulness, right? It's really important. And look at the dogs. They are mindful.
So we'll just as you're saying, we'll just try and explore that a little bit. So practice mindfulness, to me, that's being in the here and the now. So it's not dwelling on the past. It's not trying to anticipate the future. It's just being with yourself in the moment with your dog in this specific case. But being mindful is trying not to worry about things outside of your control or what did happen or what could happen. It's about just tackling life in the moment.
Yeah,
is that you interpret it?
Yes, definitely. And if you look to the dog and something happens, your dog might sit for a minute and adjust with the situation, and then it has a new plan and starts doing things again. But it doesn't dwell on it. It's not the way how we do and take the phone or put on social media and tell everyone about what happens. And after a week, we're still working on that, right? That's not mindfulness. So mindfulness is literally being now and enjoy that moment. And if you are more mindful, then there is no need to control things, because we are so worrying about what is coming because we don't trust anything anymore. We cannot let that go. So as long as we try to control it and put it in a box, then we might know what is coming. But even then, we don't know, right?
That's right. Okay. So that's very similar. Okay, what's number 2?
So that is practice mindfulness. And then 2 is embrace uncertainty. That's a big one, right?
I like that, because especially in this modern world that we live in, isn't it? There's always waves of change and this and that. Especially in the workforce, I think, I don't know, it's probably similar across the world, but here in Australia, like casualisation of the workforce has been quite common, and contracting, because employment law and all that sort of stuff with all their benefits, and that becomes a little bit uncertain. So people sort of get contracts on short-term contracts, and even governments are doing that these days. So there's a lot of uncertainty and that sort of stuff in a lot of elements of your life, isn't it? Is that
uncertainty is in many ways, and I think we got a wake-up call over the last 4 years. That was a big change, and things that we thought we were certain kind of were uncertain at that time. So can we embrace that uncertainty? Do we really need to know everything? And I like to bring that example up. That's not a dog example, but I think it is pretty easy to understand. Like, if you have an apple tree and the apple falls and digest, and then the seeds come into the ground, do you think that the seeds know that they will become a new apple tree?
That's right.
I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
So to become who we are, who we need to be, the purpose that we have, we need to kind of surrender and let it come to us.
Yeah.
That's what dogs do. And I love that you said dogs are very curious, right? So they want to do things for us. That's why they are used in all different works. But do you think that when the puppy was born that they already knew what they are becoming? No.
no.
So why are we trying to do that?
And it's interesting. It's interesting that she should raise that. And to me, that's a big impact on my life. Uncertainty and embracing change. The most influential book of my career or of my life to date was a book called Who Moved My Cheese, and it's a book about change. I don't know if you read a little child's book as well, and it's quite a basic sort of read, but yeah, it's just about change and like you say, adapting with it. And I feel that even from a young age, that's something that I've had to embrace my whole life. And I feel if you can master that, being able to cope with uncertainty, then I feel that you're sort of halfway there, especially when you're becoming self-employed or entrepreneuring or this and that, because there is sort of like a fluid, well, for me anyway, I have a fluid approach where if an opportunity does come my way, then I can grab it. But like you say, I'm not looking for that opportunity, but I keep my eyes open, and if one should come, then I do that. And I feel having that fluid life and able to pivot and change has empowered me to do what I want to do in life and to live my life with my values. So it's very important, like you say, to be able to embrace that. So that's a really good point. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And we all know that the world around us changes so fast that to keep up, it's easier to kind of surrender with the uncertainty than try to keep up. Like I have 4 teenagers. They are way smarter than I am.
That's right.
So the only thing I can do is try to learn from them and just surrender with the idea that they will know more than I will know ever right now, right?
Right, that's right. Especially when it comes to these computers and that, isn't it?
I know, but computers and phones and iPads, but my oldest is helping me with marketing, so it's way easier to ask her something, because if I need to figure it out myself, that takes way too long.
Yeah, and
I don't have always the patience for that as well.
And that's one thing that I sort of learned as well, like from when I started, used to try and keep control of everything like that, and keep control of your marketing and keep control of this, and you're trying to do everything from welding up your trailer or fixing your trailer or servicing your trucks and this and that, because you don't trust any mechanics and this and that, and suddenly you've got to do everything, and like you say, it takes you away from doing what you want to do, because you're taking control of everything, and suddenly I don't want to fix this truck. That's not my value. That's not my goal. There's people out there who want to do that, so let them do it.
Yes, but it's important to understand what do you like to do, what feels good to you, and choose that more.
That's right. Now that's a good one. Okay, what's number 3?
Then that's perfect, because it brings us to number 3, and it is live true to yourself. Be authentic, right? Have you ever seen a dog who tries to be a cat or a horse? However, some dogs do silly things, but I mean that be who you are and don't try to be somebody else. Like as human, we listen way too much to what other people think that we should do, right? And it starts at schools, and that is in work, and as teenagers, it is like the worst, because they constantly have a kind of a competition in who you are. And I'm very proud, because I really try to raise my kids in a way that they need to figure out who they are, not who others want them to be. So that's really important. But your dog wants that too, because the more you are true to yourself, the more authentic you are. That's the way how you are to your dog too.
And that's important, I suppose, and that takes a little bit of self-reflection, doesn't it, and a little bit of looking in the mirror and trying to understand and learn about yourself, and sometimes that takes courage to do, to identify your values and identify what you want to do, and regardless on what, like you say, other negativities, or regardless on what your family say or what you should be doing or this or that, to follow that path. and sometimes that path is not a straight line, is it? As you know, it could be sort of zigzaggy or whatever, but staying true to yourself, I feel, is very important. And I'll be interested to hear, you say you've been training the dogs for 30 odd years or something, and it's taken you through this to where you are now, where you got your published book, and you're starting to embrace the social media and getting out there in your smiling face and trying to put positive vibes on people. I feel doing a great job with just with even mental health and being able to convey happy, positive messaging, and the world needs more of that. But that journey obviously has taken you that 30 years, hasn't it, to get to there? You haven't just woken up one day and look, this is who I am,
No, definitely not. But you know what? When I was a kid, where my kids now are as a teenager, I felt many times that nobody understood me.
Yeah.
I felt alone with the people around me. I was lucky that I always had dogs around me, because they never judged me, and they never let me alone, right? They were always there. So the dogs really carried me through the life where I am now. But I honestly, like 30 years ago, I didn't have kids, and I trained dogs. And my dogs, I could do anything with them, and they were always loose, and I lived in the country and everything. But then I got kids, and things changed. And even my confidence in letting my dogs loose when my kids were there, and it was always like choosing, my attention went to kids or to dogs, and how can I embrace that? And how can I surrender that every dog in your life comes to you to learn the lessons where you are right there, not where you are in the future, not where you were in the past. And I got many people who come here and he said, I have had my whole life dogs, but this last dog I have no idea what to do with it. and you know why? Because they are stuck in the mindset they had before. But this dog came because there needed to be learned new lessons. So no, I didn't come there in just one jump in time. No, I went through a lot of things, and I'm very glad, because those lessons that I have written down now and that I have learned myself and I'm learning my kids, that are the things that help me every day. But still, I am making them better every day. I'm still not there, because there is no perfect, right?
And there's no destination, and this is what I'm the lessons that I'm learning, and the journey that I'm on is about the journey. There is no destination, because if you do get somewhere, then there's somewhere else you can go, isn't it? Like there's always improvement to make. So that's
I wrote that on my wrist. The joy is in the journey.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you enjoy where you are right now, and that you're not with your mind all the time and where you want to be. Because I don't know how long your journey takes. So enjoy.
Yeah. And that's been a lot very relevant for me lately too, because of this. I've been doing a bit of campaigning just on some local issues here. And sometimes you get so embraced, so involved in a campaign, that you forget to enjoy what you're doing, and you're doing it for positive reasons. But because some of these things take time, the wheels of politics, what does it, turn slowly and all the rest of it. And these things don't happen overnight. And it can become quite frustrating, because you're trying to change the world or whatever overnight. And you're that embraced and sometimes, and whether it's a local campaign, or whether it's, like you say, a project with your dog, or a new dog, or business venture, it's important, like you say, not to get bogged down on that, and try to still enjoy what you're doing. Because if you can't enjoy what you're doing, what the hell are you doing it for? You know what I mean? And that's the story that and it's interesting, you got that tattooed on your wrist. Did you feel that you were forgetting that sometimes, or?
I don't forget that, but my dog is called Joy as well, so it has a double meaning. So I have a little dog paw on there as well.
Okay, that's amazing. That's good work. Great. So what's number 4?
Number 4 is unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
There is like what we get from dogs is love that has no expectations. There is no limitations. It's just whatever they have, they give.
Yeah.
And you can be mad and you turn around and they're happy again.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
So unconditional, I think that is one that I start to embrace more and more. And the world where we are in, it's very often that we do something to get something.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's always right. So I
Yeah.
think if we do things and enjoy the giving or doing,
Yeah.
then we are not needing the giving back on it.
Yeah.
So unconditional love is a really big one. And that is what I use, right? I am going with Joy as a therapy dog to nursing homes. And today I went to the college,
Yeah.
right? To the college students, and they were all freaking out because they had tests. And then I walked there with my dog, and just the petting of the dog calms them down.
Yeah.
And that is that love that I want to share from
Yeah.
my dog to the
Yeah.
people who need.
And it's interesting that you should say that, because the dogs do have that unconditional love, and like you say, they don't hold a grudge or they don't care. Like if you get up on next time, they'll be up and whatever you give them. But I suppose there's a little bit of danger with that sort of term in regards to like human relationships, especially toxic male relationships, and if you're always giving and narcissists or whatever can start taking and manipulate that situation. But you're talking about just the joy and love regardless of what's going on, or without like the uni students, they might be put their headsets on and might be ignoring it or whatever. It doesn't matter. You show them the love and show them the smile and the dog and this and that, and eventually break through, as opposed
Right.
to that sort of behavior where you create an environment where you're getting trapped or manipulated into a controlling thing.
And for sure, but that is how people kind of break that law, and they take it out of proportion, and it's not the right way. It's not the natural way to manipulate in a relationship. So unconditional love is the base, but they misused the term, right? So if we lean into, or if we look at how animals do it, not just dogs, but horses as well, you know that too, right? Or even cows, right? You have the cows too.
Yeah,
but if
cows are less needy, so I like the cows more, because the horses need a bit more attention than the cows.
Oh, okay, you know that better than I do. But I worked my whole life with animals, like pigs and cows, and I worked in zoos with different animals, with cats and dogs, and every dog or every animal is attracted by your energy or not. Right?
Yeah.
So that is the cool part. And that is with human too, but we kind of unlearned ourselves to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It is a good positive thing, like you say, unconditional love and having that vibe. And it's more about internal love as well, because you've got to love yourself to be able to love other people. So with that love of yourself, then you're setting the right barriers or boundaries, or setting the right defense in, so you're not getting into them bad situations. But like you say, there's a lot of terminology that's been kidnapped in some of these psychology type things. But we understand that that's what you're trying to embrace. It's a love in general, regardless. And one of the other guy used to talk about, he was a bit religious, but he used to talk about unconditional happiness and being happy regardless of what's going on. So he used to say, it doesn't matter if the world's falling in and the world around you is collapsing and this and that, and it's your choice to be happy or not happy. And if you choose to be happy, and then a lot of people were taking that, oh, what if you're getting shot at by this and that? And he says, it's still a choice. You've got to choose to be happy and then, like you say, people could kidnap that philosophy a little bit, but I feel,
of course. And you know what, some people, if they think negative, you cannot change that. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just adjust with it and say like, okay, if you want
Okay.
to think that way,
That's
I
right. Yeah.
don't want to change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I want to say one more thing about unconditional love, because I love that you said it is from your love inside, right? You need to love yourself.
Yeah.
And what I learned really in unconditional love is that it is so much easier to give away love than to receive love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where is it coming that we get expectation on giving is because we don't love ourselves enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we don't love ourselves enough, then our cup goes down and down by giving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we start to expect to be loved by somebody else to fill our cup, but we actually need to do that ourselves.
Ourselves. That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's what it's about, isn't it? Like you say, it's love. Unconditional love. It includes yourself. In fact, focusing on yourself to love yourself and to be the best. Actually, like you say, will project that love onto other people because you've got that love for yourself. And I feel that's pretty good. So what are we up to now? 5. Number 5, is it?
Yes. Number 5 is the art of empathy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A dog always is curious to who you are, what you're doing, try to understand you, feel you. So can we open up and start to try and feel the emotions that the dogs feel?
Yeah.
And they show that back in behavior. But it goes way farther than just a dog and dog owner relationship. It goes, if we have a chat together and we show empathy, that means that we're open to have a different meaning or a different idea about things, but we're not frustrated with that. But we just take it as, oh, okay, you think different than I think. That's okay.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because it's very relevant now with all the politics and everything, where there's like 50% of thinking this and 50% of thinking that and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of hate if you don't think the same way as me. But the world would be very boring if everyone thought the same. And that's part of the joy of being human, is everyone's got a unique set of neurocells in their brain and do think things differently based on their own experience and this and that. And that should be embraced and celebrated, rather than I don't know, hate and segregation, I suppose,
Yeah, so we live in a world with a lot of polarization, right?
Yeah.
But polarization is not there to focus on that, but it is like, and I love to bring it back to a pendulum that goes out and in the middle, and so the polarizations are the outsides, but we need to focus on the middle. It always comes out and comes back, and that's where the empathy comes. So if we focus less on the division, in the end, we're all in the middle.
Yeah. And that's a good point. So for me, empathy is about I suppose acceptance in a way, and encouragement as well, and it's almost like there used to be a saying that I don't know if you heard it, that walk a mile in someone else's shoes or something like that used to be the saying, so sort of get to know from someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of the time we used to, especially in like suicide prevention or mental health work, whereas you're walking a mile in someone else's shoes, suddenly you can get consumed by who they are and take on board some of their struggles as your own, which is not healthy for anyone. But that's where we used to say, it's okay to go and take a walk in someone else's shoes, but make sure you wear your own socks, so you sort of
but if you do, you start to see it from a different perspective, right? So I often, in all the challenges that people have with dogs, I often ask them, if a dog is like barking all the time, I sometimes ask people, what do you think that your dog is thinking right now?
Yeah.
And then people are like, I don't know. Okay, let's try to explore.
yeah.
So
And that's
bringing in that different perspective is
yeah,
really important.
yeah. And I feel that's where the empathy comes from, isn't it? By understanding, or at least exploring, or trying to identify why that frame of mind, or why that behavior in your dogs, or why that person is feeling that way, and trying to look at it from their perspective. And sometimes that's very difficult to do, because it's sort of surrendering your own beliefs and your own
Yes.
ideas,
We
and
are so attached to what we think
yeah.
that we forget that we might be able to learn something from somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. Does
And
the ego have a bit to do with that? Do you think ego, or
oh
something?
yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But that doesn't mean that like we have ego too. That doesn't mean that we have a heart as well.
yeah. No, that's good.
So yeah.
Yeah,
And then number 6
yeah,
is the growth mindset.
yeah,
There is like a dog is so curious to do more, to learn more, to expand what they can. Let's do that too.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and is that something? Obviously, all these points are values that you're living towards. Do you find that growth, or that need, or want to keep growing, has helped you to get your book to the stage of publishing now, and get to where you are now? Without that growth mindset, it'd be very difficult to complete that task, do you feel? Or?
Absolutely. And like I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if I told last time, but 12 years ago we emigrated from the Netherlands
Yeah,
to Canada, and English wasn't my main language, right?
yeah.
Now I wrote a book in English. I
Yeah,
think you need to have courage to do things that are hard. If I go back to my school, when I was in high school, I failed on English.
yeah. And now you're doing
But
it.
and now I'm doing it, right? So
Yeah,
how cool is that?
yeah,
That if you have a growth mindset, you can expand every day a little bit more.
yeah. And I feel for me personally, I never really, like, I worked 25 years, or even longer in design, doing 3D design, and project work, around the world. I never actually went and done an engineering course, or upgraded any, because I only went to year 8 at school or anything. But I had plenty of opportunity. I was sitting there doing the work. I could have gone to higher education, actually got some qualifications to match the work that I was doing, but I never really went to that, like you say, that growth thought, because I didn't put any value on that, as through them years. And it wasn't until I'm 40, and that mindset changed, and continuous improvement has become a very, very important to me, going through this. I've done Cert for mental health, and then done my counselling diploma in counselling, and just about finished my bachelor in psychology. So and that's one of the biggest values that I've sort of picked up, from turning 40. But I feel if I had that same mindset when I was 20, I could have, been so much, achieved so much more. But it's hard, isn't it, to sort of tell
But
young people about that, isn't it?
but that wasn't your journey,
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
right? So I bet if you didn't have the desire at that age, but somebody pushed you to that school and said, you need to do this.
Yeah, you wouldn't done it. Yeah. That's right.
No,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So your journey was meant to be to become that person after 40.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And
And
isn't
that,
that cool?
yeah, and that's the interesting thing. And like you say, embracing change, and working through all of these things, because there's no, I think you mentioned a little bit, I was going to touch on it then, but there's no timeline. Everyone's timeline is different. There's no genetic timeline that we need to follow. And for me, it took me a little bit longer to get to a point where I was stable, probably, from my childhood, or from other factors that I had to grow into that sort of space to be able to do what I'm doing now, which is amazing. And similar to you, like you say, you immigrated, and learned new things, and that you tried to learn English and you failed, and now, years later or whatever, it becomes part of your job. And not only that, you're publishing books in English. So that's phenomenal.
I know.
Yeah.
So with a growth mindset, I think the biggest lesson in there is that we are capable in more than we think.
Yeah.
But if we have a big picture, it might be overwhelming, but break it down to smaller steps.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we do in dog training. We are using that curiosity from the dog. But for example, if you want to learn a dog to shake a paw, but your dog never takes up his paw, then it's hard because he never does that. But if a dog is already doing that because it wants something, it's easier to make that a new behavior to learn, right?
Yeah.
To use the curiosity or the behavior from the dog to see where you can play and push in a certain direction. And coming back to a timeline, like that is the problem in schools these days. Like we have elementary school, and then we go high school, and then we need to study university or whatever. It is a time that is kind of meant to be. And if you're not doing it, you're silly and crazy, and you're not part of normal. Well, what if you're 40 and you figure out that you want that? How much more drive do you have to become that person?
That's right. Yeah. And I found, I don't know how your teenager, you said your teenager, my youngest is 22 now, but I remember when he was 13, I think it was grade 7 here. They changed it here, where grade 7 is a high school here in Australia. I think it's 12 or 13 or something like that. But he had to make a choice. So they're talking about, you got to choose what you want to be when you grow up, and this and that. I remember he come home quite upset because he didn't know what he wanted to be, and this and that. They put so much pressure on choosing subjects and this and that for no real reason at all, because you could just live your life, but
and the problem with that, like my kids, like I have one 19 and one 18, but if they need to decide what they want to be at that age,
you don't know.
And then even people tell them, you're not allowed to change, because do you know how much money we spend to that?
That's right.
Those people are overwhelmed, and they have no idea where to go with a loan on their name that they cannot go anywhere. So if we think about surrender, let's say that if you don't know what you want to be, start work.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And things will just work out where you can go. Yeah, that's right. The universe will soon tell you. But,
and that's a saying that here in the house is a big one. I am sure you will figure it out.
Yeah. But the other thing,
if you don't have money, you will figure it out.
But there was another thing that someone says to me, and it makes a lot of sense. If you don't make a decision of where you want to be or what you want to go, or someone else will. And that's, if you don't have control of your thoughts, I suppose, or I forget how it goes, but like if you're not making the decision, then someone else will make it for you, and they'll probably put you in a production line somewhere, and for their financial benefit or whatever. So it's up to you to put you where you want to be, so.
Yeah. So my daughter wrote a post today, and she's 19, will become 20 in January. And can you imagine what a life lesson she already has? So she wrote a post today that she quit her corporate job about a month ago. So she's now, not even a month ago, I think. But she is now living her dream in the things that she likes to do. And now she already decides, I'm never going back. I will make money on my terms. I will do the things on my terms. And you know what? I'm enjoying it. I'm getting energy of it. I've never having a day anymore to drag myself to work to make a dream from somebody else. I want to make my own dreams.
Yeah, and that's something that's interesting, because a lot of people do that. They go to work to earn money or whatever, whereas it's something that I've only managed to do in the last few years, but just by living my life creates money. Yeah, I mean, just by doing what I want to do and just doing, and money just appears. It's quite funny, isn't it? When you like you say,
and that's
the passions and things.
That's how the universe works,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If we become the person we are meant to be, then everything falls in place.
Yeah, that's right.
And how can we become that person to become more authentic and to don't try to live someone else's life?
No, and that's very good words. So you've got these 6 points. Are these 6 points focus in your book, or is there sort of stories around them books?
This is only the first chapter where I just write the 6 lessons that the dog gave me. And then the rest of the book, and it's 12 chapters, the rest of the books is giving you chapter for chapter kind of a guide how to work towards your end goals. What is your intention? How do you want to, how do you see that relationship with your dog? And you know what? If you can change the relationship with your dog in a better way, that you are connected and that it's a loving relationship based on joy, do you think that you can do that with your kids or with your spouse or with anyone around you? And
that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because it's transferable lessons to every relationship that you have.
So I'm giving you tools where you can practice on your dog, because there's nothing better than to practice on a dog who's not judgmental, is having unconditional love for you anyway, right? So you can make mistakes. You can practice there, but it will form you and you become a different person. So you literally transform in 12 weeks to become that person that your dog sees in you.
That's amazing. And is that sort of like, is it like a 12-week program with your 12 chapters? Is it really, you think?
So it's 12 chapters. And it's like the book actually leads into the opportunity. So this is a self-guide where people can work on their own. And if there are people who said like, oh, I really like this approach, I really like the way how you work, but I cannot do that on my own, then those people are invited to connect with me, because I do have a group coaching or a one-on-one coaching where I lead people through it. And so those 12 chapters are more of a self-guide. If you really want that help, then I'm there to help you, and I can connect that with your dog. But I do get people who love dogs but don't have their own dogs.
So dog's not mandatory. It's just more of a thing. But so if you like what you read, you buy your book, like what you read, and if you want to explore a bit further, you're open to help and talk people through that. And that's some of the stuff that you're doing there. That's amazing. And
then we're going, and we call that dog mastery, right? So the dog helps to master you to become a better person.
That's amazing. No, that's good. And you bring so much joy and happiness. I can see you're really exuberating beautiful vibes even through the monitor screen, and I feel that there's a lot of value even just in chapter 1 that we just talked through there, that we can provide people. So I really like to thank you for all the amazing work and amazing vibes that you are giving, and you are making the world a better place, one dog at a time, like you say. But I'd encourage anyone to certainly follow your work. It's amazing, and I'll have a look here in Australia to see where the book's available at Amazon, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll post that on some of these sites and that. But is there one sort of any sort of closing statements that you'd like to close on?
I I would love to tell my website. It is www.joyfulsupport.com. And there is a book page in there as well. So you can try to order with that, the book page. There's different ways where you can get it. And I'm not sure how that works in Australia, though. So Amazon is part of it, but there's more. So it might be one of them in Australia.
Yeah.
You can find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. That's where we connected, right?
Yeah.
I am very open to work with people if they are curious and if they are on that place where they know that it's not just the dog that needs to change, but there is something for you as well. So if you are there, then I would invite you to buy at least a book.
Yeah.
And if you want more, I'm there. And find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or on the website, because there's much more to see.
Yeah. And it's worthwhile following you too, because you do put some really nice content and happy content. There's a lot of positivity in everything that you do, and I feel just embracing that, making people smile through some of these photos and some of these good things that you put on there is beneficial for everyone. I like that. Again, thank you for all your beautiful work that you do. And
thank you.
I'll try and put some plugs and put some links on your book or whatever on this post when we post it, and we'll try and see if we can spread the word and spread the joy.
Thank you so much, Trevor. I really appreciate what you do and that you are open, having the understanding that there is more people who know something that you might not know yet. So thank you for being as open as you are and spreading the word like you do. It is a pleasure to be with you. And I hope, because you told me that you wanted to write a book as well, I hope your book comes out one time.
Yeah. So my book, I gotta get a bit more inspired by your success and getting it. It's like you say, the final steps are always the hardest, aren't they? So it's just about trying to prioritize that a little bit more, and that's part of not being consumed in your current endeavors, I suppose, or your campaigns or your business things or whatever, and try and still stay true to what you're trying to achieve, I suppose, and that's all part of it. So thank you for giving me that kick up the bum. I'll have to start looking at that again and get
I see it as a birthing process. Birthing a book was my hardest giving birth.
Yeah.
So I bet as a man it is a little different, but it feels the same.
It's one of the things I find, I suppose, is priority shifts, I suppose, as you're going through, and that was one of the shifts it was a big priority. But then when this campaign came up, then I suppose I put everything on hold and focused all my attention on that. But even to the point with one of my biggest values at the moment is my study, obviously, with my psychology, bachelor's in psychology, and I'm just about through that. So even being able to continue with that in my campaign is something that I've been managing. But sometimes when you're juggling so many balls, you've got to put one down for a while. It's just one of them.
And that's okay, because this is your journey. And I bet that all the things that need to be first now, they are just making your book even better.
That's right. Yeah. No worries. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll take in some posts. And like I said, anyone who wants happy vibes can follow you, and I'll certainly recommend everything that you're doing. And perhaps we can catch up again one other time in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.